First of all, last year we saw tensions flare between Great Britain and Spain and Gibraltar over border checks, then over a reef you were constructing in the harbour, which angered fishermen. Are those issues resolved?
They are, because Spain took the step, rightly in my view, of making complaint to an appropriate third-party body like the European Commission to have an independent arbitration of whether we were acting properly or improperly. And the European Commission's DG for Environment found that we were acting entirely properly in creating that reef within British Gibraltar territorial waters. You saw the Prime Minister, David Cameron, took a similar approach in relation to border queues, and the Commission looked at the queues and found that they were unjustified on the part of Spain and disproportionate when it recently reported back to both the United Kingdom and Spain on these issues. So when a third party is involved and you have an objective analysis of what is going on, Gibraltar and the United Kingdom have been seen to be acting properly and reasonably.
What is the point of Gibraltar today? If you were explaining it, I mean, there will be those that will say, isn't it just a bygone relic of the days of empire?
Well, but if you say to the people of Brighton, what is the purpose of Brighton today? It's their home. Gibraltar is the home of the Gibraltarians. They happen to have a link politically with the United Kingdom, of which we are very proud indeed. So it's not a question of analysing whether there is any value to the United Kingdom. It's about analysing what it means for the Gibraltarians to live in their home. And of course, one's home is the place which one treasures the most.
But of course, geographically, we all know how close it is to Spain. I mean, it's right there. I mean, the United Nations has called on the UK to negotiate the decolonisation of Gibraltar with Spain. Why are you right and the UN wrong?
Well, because the United Nations took that decision at a time when it wasn't dealing with a democratic Spain. It was dealing with Franco Spain in the 1960s. Since then, the UN consensus decisions have been about the UK putting its position and Spain putting its position and talking about dialogue, but not just about dialogue between the United Kingdom and Spain, a trilateral dialogue which includes the voice of the people of Gibraltar. In fact, in the modern era, could you have any way of resolving any issue other than by listening to the people who are relevant, most relevant to it, namely the people of the territory?
Right. Is that now the policy going forward in terms of your future relationship with Spain? Is it going to be about dialogue and you listening to the Spanish government?
Of course it is. And the position of the government of Gibraltar, successive administrations of the government of Gibraltar, has been to engage in dialogue with the United Kingdom about sovereignty and with Spain and the United Kingdom on issues unrelated to sovereignty. The United Kingdom's position has been exactly the same, and the United Kingdom have reaffirmed their commitment to the Trilateral Forum for Dialogue, which was created under the previous Labour administration. But unfortunately, the Spanish Popular Party, which took over from the Socialist Party at about the same time that I became Chief Minister of Gibraltar, has decided to pull out of those talks. And the United Kingdom and Gibraltar remain firmly committed to that process of dialogue, expecting Spain to come back to the table.
Are you optimistic about the future in terms of relations between Gibraltar and Spain?
Well, obviously, what one wants is for the Spanish and UK government to work together with the people of Gibraltar and reach kind of consensus. However, again, I kind of think sometimes we have to think of ourselves as others might view us. And imagine if the Isle of Wight was controlled by Spain for historic reasons. It would be a constant irritation to us. And so I think in the longer term, one has to recognise that the geographical position of Gibraltar means that its long-term destiny is presumably to be part of Spain. The way that we get there should be through consensus, and if we can work together, then that's the best way to do it. But again, I just say, let's imagine how we would feel if we had a small island off the UK owned by another country.
How would you feel if you looked at it from that perspective and through that prism?
Well, I say good luck to those that think that our future is with Spain. I'm sorry to say, Matthew, that is just not realistic.
Is that because of the economic situation in Spain?
No, not at all. Let me just give you an example which is purely geographic, because I think Matthew's basing his argument purely on geography. If I look out of my window across the Straits of Gibraltar, I see two enclaves in North Africa which are Spanish and which Morocco claims for themselves. They don't see their future as being anything other than Spanish, because the people of those territories, Ceuta and Melilla, choose to be Spanish. And look, if the people of Ceuta and Melilla are entitled to remain Spanish because they choose to be, surely the people of Gibraltar are the most important element in this and can choose to remain British. And if not British, why? And if not British, excuse me, with respect, if not British, why Spanish? Why not something else?
Well,
why
let
not
Matthew
Gibraltar?
Taylor answer that.
I understand that. All I'm saying to you is that, you know, geography is the main criterion which we use when it comes to territory and borders and those kinds of things. So therefore, it is incumbent upon the government of Gibraltar and the UK to work closely with Spain, because a situation in which there was a complete breakdown of relationship between Gibraltar and Spain would be untenable.
And it would be bad, wouldn't it, for the people of Gibraltar?
No,
so in a way, I just want to put the question about the economy, because Spain, as we know, is in deep waters in terms of its economy. Isn't that your priority, helping Spain improve its economy, which will help Gibraltar too?
Not at all, but let's look at these three factors. The economic first, which you mentioned. Gibraltar's economy is resilient and it's freestanding, but that is not the issue why we might not want to be Spanish. Taking the argument that Matthew is putting, bango the Falkland Islands, because if we're close to Spain and we are going to soon become subsumed by the Spanish government,
well, the same sort of argument would be used.
The early model that Matthew can envisage, well then goodbye to the Falklands. I don't think that is a fair way of looking at things, because if we're looking at things in a modern way, it's not just geography, it must be the principle of consent, which the United Kingdom defends around the world. And we've looked at interventions in the Middle East, always defending the right of people to determine for themselves how their future should be determined.
Except I suppose people would say you want to reduce the amount of conflict going on, but
absolutely right.
Is David Cameron right to seek to reform the principle of freedom of movement in the EU to limit migration to UK?
Absolutely he is, and if you look at why he reported issues to Mr Barroso and what the freedom of movement means in the treaty establishing the European Union, it means many different things. In Gibraltar we have 10,000 people who come into Gibraltar every day who are residing in Spain but come to Gibraltar to work. A little bit like Liverpool Street Station in the morning, people coming into the city.
Because you're a low-tax, high-growth economy.
And because we offer a lot of employment to people in the high unemployment zone in Spain. So they have to have the freedom to come into Gibraltar, work and take the money that they make in Gibraltar back to their families in Spain every day. There's quite a difference between people coming to the United Kingdom, establishing themselves here and not taking employment.
And finally, Catalonia is due to hold a referendum on independence. What's your view on that?
Look, I'm an expert on the right of self-determination of the people of overseas territories and people who are non-self-governing territories listed at the UN. I don't give opinions on what should happen inside Spain.
You don't have a personal view on that?
Of course I do, but I'm here as the Chief Minister of Gibraltar.
You can still let us have your personal view.
I will tell you later.
OK. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.